Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of Siffany's Walk with Grace. I'm Siffany, and I'm sitting here with Grace, who is my wonderful mother. And we wanted to do this series as a way to try to help people not feel so alone, maybe provide a little bit of guidance. Grace has a background in psychology, right?
In
Okay.
psychology.
I mixed the names up.
Yeah.
And so she has a lot of that knowledge that she brings to the table, but we together seem to prefer the more natural method and talking through stuff and relating to people. And so the whole goal with the series is to just help you guys. I mean, that's why we're here. Part of what really felt nice about this is you have two completely different generations. And you also have two completely different styles. We listen to two different styles of music. I mean, we are definitely two different people.
Definitely.
However, finding love in a place of difference is a miraculous thing. And so I hope you guys enjoy. So today, I think we're just going to kind of start off and introduce ourselves a little bit and then see where the conversation goes.
Yeah.
So... well, you came first, so do you want to go first?
Sure, I guess I did. Okay. For me, a big part of doing this series, this work, with my beautiful daughter Holly, Siffany, my beautiful daughter Siffany, is that she has been the greatest source of my own transformation. That continues on a daily basis. Every time we talk, when we don't talk, we're always around each other, near each other, even if just in our hearts. But she has taught me so much. My direct healing has come from my relationship with this beautiful creature here. So, and I want to share some of that. Not only am I a counselor, I come from a very difficult family. Raising Siffany was not the easiest thing in the world, and she really challenged me. We are so different. One of the big difference between us that I think was evident at birth is that she is very outspoken, loud, full of energy, so full of life.
I'm the Energizer Bunny.
She's the Energizer Bunny. I, on the other hand, am the quiet, reserved, very much in my solitude. I can't get enough solitude. And so just that one little thing, how it has played out in our life and the damage that I accidentally, because I didn't know how to deal with that, she has caused such a sense of, I had such a yearning and such a longing to love this girl, this young lady, just the way she is. Not some preconceived notion of what I wanted, which I had, but she quickly helped me realize it's not about me. It's about her. And how do I reconcile that? Because our differences are so different. So anyway, that's really why I'm here.
And for me, because I'm so outspoken and bullheaded, I don't like to back down. I like to be very verbal about how I feel about situations and very verbal about different ways to try to help other people, different ideas that maybe someone hasn't thought about that might be a total game changer. And growing up, I will never, ever, ever forget how many times this woman right here was like, you need to be a lawyer because you just don't stop.
Yep.
And so I'm like, well, I've reached quite a few people in my community. Well, how many can I reach if I branch out? And pardon me. Having such diverse backgrounds, I feel like is a really cool symbol in itself, because right now we are in a world, unfortunately, that still has quite a bit of hatred in it, and quite a bit of the inability to accept someone for who they are, and the need to force them into something different. And I stand very, very firm by the fact that should not be a thing. Our individuality is what makes us so special. I do a lot with art. I do a lot with music. And I've gone to a lot of shows, and one of the biggest things that stands out to me is the magic there. And I use the term magic because that's truly what it is. What happens when you perform is you open your soul. Every artist that performs something that actually, like, is not just like, I wear my hair back and forth, or the sillier type songs that are meant to be silly. Every artist, when they're performing, they're opening their soul to you. They are exposing themselves to the maximum capability when they perform for you. And what they're doing is they're connecting with you. They are reaching you. They are helping you feel not alone anymore. Some people find major resolution through music. So when you go to a concert, what happens is that energy that they are feeding into their music is getting fed directly to you and the group around you. And there is nothing but love 99% of the time. There's always an occasional brawl, but 99% of the time, it's always love. And everyone is brought together with the common ground. And it doesn't matter that maybe this one looks like a Barbie doll, this one looks like a goth kid, this one looks like they don't even have their real face on, this one over here might have a mask, and you know what? None of us give a crap, because we're there together for a common cause, and we're feeling this magical energy. And so I bring that up because as an artist, my goal is to reach as many people as I can, but I also want to make it fun for you. However, exposing your soul, it can be hard to do at times. And I feel like the more people learn how to accept others and how to speak on difficult subjects and understand they're not alone, that might make a massive difference in the world. And so for me, having Grace with me is so vital because of the fact that the generational difference does matter in certain conflicts for certain people. And it's neat to be able to observe and see what kind of difference can be made if we learn to love each other and accept each other for who we are. And so here we are today. So without further ado, we were originally going to stockpile a bunch of videos to release them. However, there was a recent tragedy in Colorado Springs where one of our only gay bars, we do not have very many, got shot up, and a lot of people were injured. I think this morning they were at 5 deaths now, so someone had gone into the hospital. And there's a lot of angst in the LGBTQ community right now. There is a lot of fear in the people that are not considered straight. And a really cool thing about it is that we were watching the memorial they did the day after the accident, or not the accident, the tragedy, the day after. And someone had said that she was sitting at the table with the mayor, with the chief of police, with, like, I mean, a lot of big people in the like city council type of realm. And they said that it's not going to go unnoticed. It's not going to go, hey, psst, pardon my cat fight. It's not going to go without being reconciled. And they're trying to help us still feel safe. And now I say us because I am bisexual. And I did feel fear. We still don't have all the names either, so there's still potential that someone was affected that I am very close to and I'm unaware of. There's a lot of people that have this fear right now too. And the first thing I did was I called my mom and I said, Mama, this is not okay. And so we had a little talk yesterday, and certain things in that conversation came up that we were like, you know what, we should share this on our channel. And so that's what we're here to do. And what I would like to say is that fear has always been a thing, no matter who you are, no matter what you are. Some people live in fear of persecution for their religious beliefs. Some people are in fear of persecution for their color of skin. Some people because they've gotten divorced and that goes against certain beliefs. Some people because they don't make as much money as other people do. No matter where you're at, there's always fear. And I don't want people to feel like they're alone, and I don't want people to feel like you have to hide your voice, because you know what? Your voice is the strongest tool you have. It is the strongest weapon, the strongest defense that you have. And you may laugh at that, but I've seen a lot more damage done with words than I have physical objects. And in tragedies like this, I feel like we need to remember why we're here, who we love, who we care about. We need to hold them close. We need to appreciate every moment. Little things don't matter anymore. Like, they never have. Those are just luxury items. But at the end of the day, what matters is the people around you and the people that you touch and the people that you affect. And, yeah.
Well, Siffany mentioned, your voice is your most important asset, maybe.
That's a good way to word it.
And one of the big differences with Siffany and I is that I'm in some ways the opposite. For me, my first go-to is to go inward and be quiet. But the cool thing about what we're doing here is how do you marry that up? Because both are important, right? If we don't go inner, if we don't go inward, and we don't feel our feelings and think about what's happening with us, then there's a major tendency to put it out there. That's great if you're feeling love and you're coming from a loving place, but yesterday's happenings were tragic. For most of us, that wasn't our first thought or feeling. What was your first thought or feeling when you found out? And that's typically, if we're not careful to kind of spend a little time inward, that's when we have the tendency to hurt.
And the last thing we want to see is the community get riled up and feel like they have to fight.
Yes.
Or hide. That's not
either
what should happen. We should all be free to be ourselves. And I feel like if we weren't all different, the world would have no color, and oh my goodness, would it be bland and boring and like melancholy and just gross. So I don't understand why someone would want to take away the color in the world. That's
right.
And I'm not even using the term color by means of like the gay flag itself, but with all these hate crimes in general, you're removing a piece of color. Every human life is a piece of color added to this beautiful collage of just gorgeous varieties of color, and some blend very well together, and some are on the opposite end of the color wheel. But you know what? Together, it's a gorgeous picture. So you're taking color away from this beautiful, colorful world that we're supposed to appreciate and experience with love.
We could not have this experience in human form on this planet without opposites, duality. You have to have both, or you can't experience either. So how do I know what happy is unless I've experienced sadness?
Yep.
Siffany was sharing a book with me before we got started here, and it was kind of a potion book, and one of them is called Bitters. And I was sharing with her, I've been getting interested in Kundalini Yoga, and one of the things the instructor was saying was that, it's time for me to take my bitters. And he said, I do this because how do I know what sweet is if I haven't experienced bitters? And what happens with the bitter is what we were discussing this outside. It's the mechanism of growth. We give plants fertilizer.
Poop turns into food.
And it turns into food. It turns into growth. So for me, the tragedy of yesterday gives us an opportunity. Yet again, another opportunity. How many times have we gone through these mass shootings? We again have an opportunity to use this for growth. So you're either going to be part of the growth or you're going to be part of the fertilizer.
I like that terminology.
Truly.
I do. I like that terminology.
Yeah. And that's going to be a personal preference for all of you. So for those of you on one side of the coin, I'm just going to use, we'll say, the Second Amendment, right? Our right to own guns is obviously going to come out of this. Doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. In your view, you're growing. You're doing what you think is right. And the other one, the opposite of that, they're the shit. They're the fertilizer. They're the dung. Get them out of here. We don't need them. No matter what side of the fence, that's going to be your belief. And that boils down to a perception.
Yeah.
What you perceive to be true for you.
And there's nothing wrong with being on opposing sides as long as you're not being hurtful or harming somebody in the process.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is where society's having the biggest issue, because we can't accept each other's differences.
No.
We do, and that's a problem. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I call myself pagan. I believe the pagan beliefs, and there's a lot of different branches of paganism. I kind of nitpick from all of them, but I tend to lean more on the Nordic side, minus sacrifices. I don't do blood ritual or sacrifices. Just no fear. But yeah, so for me, I've been getting persecuted for that my whole life. I've been judged for being bisexual. I have been judged for a lot of different things. I've had people have very obscured views of me just because of my appearance. Which right now I'm in a hoodie because it's cold, but this is how I normally look. Okay, I've got tattoos, I've got piercings, I'm a little goth kid, right? Not a lot of people are that comfortable with that still, ironically enough. But instead of turning vengeful and feeling enraged about the fact that people can't accept me, I kind of, as bad as this sounds, I turn it into a game. And the game is, how many times can I change someone's view of someone with my appearance each time I walk into the store? And it is a very entertaining game, okay? Because some people, you'll smile, you'll just be walking down the aisle and be like, and they'll be like, okay, whatever. But then you get the little old lady trying to get something off the top shelf and ain't nobody stopping to help her out. And the goth kid stops to help her out. And you know what? At first, she might look a little uncomfortable. And yes, this has happened time and time again. But by the end of this conversation and the end of this interaction, she's got a smile on her face. She's like, oh, thank you so much. You're so kind. Oh, my goodness. And then we have a merry day. And at the end of the day, even if I only changed one person's perception, I at least got one person to acknowledge that people that look like me are not necessarily bad people. And I also follow somebody, Ariello Voltaire. That kind of did not roll off right. Ariello Voltaire. He does, he's very heavy in the Gothic community. And he had done an interview at one point where he said, oh crap, I lost it. What was it? Okay, here we go. So he said, there was a murder that had happened. I think it was 97 or something like that was when this interview took place. But they were calling it the Goth murder. And that really irked up the Gothic community because, that's not fair. And one of his standing points was he was like, you know what? If a banker goes and kills somebody, you don't call it a banker murder. If a farmer kills someone, you don't call it the farmer murder. Why are you calling it a Gothic murder? Why are you targeting us? Because that's what it turned into. It turned into a giant target when it simply could have been, you know, this kid fell into a really dark place and did something stupid. Instead, it's like, oh, goth murder, goth murder, goth murder. And you start fearing the Gothic people, right? Mm. So I think a lot of what we can do to lend assistance to each other, all of us, is be careful of how we word it.
Oh, yes.
Because wording is like, had that been worded differently, the Gothic people would have had way less fear involving everyone around us for a long time. I mean, how long did that hinder us from being able to go to work with our piercings or not having to completely hide our tattoos? Yeah. Which our tattoos, by the way, are stories. There are stories. It's almost like a roll of papyrus from Egypt. It's a story with pictures. It's a beautiful thing. Why do you, why can't you just accept that that's who we are? And if you're a company that is, just not about that, like, just make that clear. But I mean, it's not fair to segregate people to such a small, limited area. Like, you limit the jobs, it limits the, even housing. People can get judged on where they live. And, like, when really, if we change our wording, if we change our views, we can do so much good.
Yeah. Wording is huge. And what's underneath wording? Underneath it is, in my mind, in my understanding is everything. So when Siffany started dressing goth, wanting dark hair and dark clothing, and
I'm a natural blonde. I claim artificial intelligence.
Yes, yeah. When she was just kind of getting into this kind of goth style, and I mean, look how dark and light we are.
Yin and yang.
Yin and yang. Yin and yang. So for me, when she first started wearing this goth and kind of getting into this goth, culture?
Yeah, that's a great way to word it.
All right.
It truly is its own culture.
Okay, so as she's getting into this culture, me, as her mom, as, I'm very light-oriented.
And our family was very, very, very Christian and Catholic. So primarily Christian.
Yeah. So not only am I struggling with kind of my own fear, oh my gosh, what's happening to my daughter? I didn't have my degree, but I was in school. And so, and I'm watching her and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's going on with her? What's going on emotionally? What is it that she's trying to express? So she's got this outward expression of goth, but what's going on inside? Is she okay? So that's where I was coming from. My family was coming from a different stance of, oh my goodness, you better do something with her. And, why are you letting her dress that way? And, she's 13? Why are you letting her dye her hair? And, I would have these, as best I could, conversations with my family saying, I'm okay with her dyeing her hair. It will grow back. I will not allow a piercing or a tattoo till she's 18, because I don't want to be responsible for that tattoo when she's 30 and decides she hates it. And why'd you let me do that, Mom? So hair will go away. Hair is easily changed. Hair, we could do, so I didn't care. And I felt the same way about her clothing. But the family that I grew up with, that it wasn't okay. But I understood Holly's expressing some, I'm sorry.
You're okay.
I understood Siffany was expressing something to me, and I wasn't allowed to express. And being my teacher, I wanted her to express. So that meant what? It meant I needed to put my thoughts, my feelings aside. I also needed to spend quite a bit of time understanding my beliefs. We operate on our beliefs all day long, but how aware are we of our own beliefs?
And when she's not just talking religious beliefs.
No, I'm
that's
belief
that's
in
beliefs
everything.
in general.
In everything.
I believe you should rinse your dishes when you're done eating. That's still a belief.
Absolutely. I believe I want to stay in my pajamas today. There's a belief behind that.
Me too.
Believe it or not, okay? So what's going on inside of you? Why do you feel the way you feel? Why do you think the way you think? What's the root of that? What's the belief behind that? And so I am constantly examining my beliefs. So Siffany is Wiccan? Pagan, sorry.
You're okay.
They're very
similar.
She'll have
but they
to help
are
us
different.
Figure that out. Yes. For me, I ask myself this sometimes. What do you subscribe? I don't subscribe to anything. Nothing. I don't know what's going to happen after I die. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen when I leave my house. I don't really know what's real and what's not real.
But what we do know is that our time here is precious.
All I have is the now. All I have is this moment with Siffany. So that's important. And I probably digress a little bit. Understanding. Okay, so what I see happening in the world, total misunderstanding.
Yes.
All of us. We're misunderstanding ourselves, which is why, to me, and I come from that, what you will, I think, see a lot of as her and I continue this conversation as time goes on, is that I am very inner.
Forgive the pussycat interruptions once in a while. I have 3. They're boys. They're fixed, but they fight.
So, misunderstanding and understanding is everything. And you have to go inward to figure out where those underlying beliefs are. And yes. I'm just going to throw out, where I've learned things from. And my favorite book that kind of opened my eyes to this, probably about 25 years ago, I think Brianna was 20 years ago, is The 4 Agreements. I think it's
I think I remember when you read that.
Yeah, it's a simple little book. It's easy to read. But within that book, it really shared how culturally defined we are. We're defined within our cultures, right? And so that belief is handed down from one generation to the next generation to the next generation to the next generation without question. Unless you start to question. How do we do that? Because that is fear. That's where fear is. Fear comes from, that kind of seems strange to me, but, if I say something in my family, I might get in trouble, or, I might get yelled at, or, I
not get invited to the next family gathering.
Yeah, so I understood just on my own life how important it was to question. So I've never stopped doing that. I went along with the ideals and beliefs given to me by my family until, and I think this is something that we'll talk about as time goes on, but for me, what I call kind of a psyche break. I broke because I could not live that way anymore. And it almost killed me. It feels like a death. When it's happening, there is nothing else but the experience of that. And for me, it was absolutely crushing.
And from an outside view,
and shattering. So it's like this, whoop, okay, I can't do that anymore. And then a shatter. And as a counselor, I've seen it over and over and over again. I've experienced it quite a few times. And it changes you. You're never the same after And from that day on, when I was about, I think I was 35-ish, I started from scratch. And I asked myself, what do you believe? What can you believe? What can you trust? What is your new foundation? What do you want that to be? And some of the ones that, the very first one that came to me, okay? I didn't read about it. I was done reading. I was done learning. I was done. What resides deep inside me? And the answer to that question was, to thine own self be true. I can't be anybody but me. And if I can't be anybody but me, how dare I try to make her be something she's not? What a gift you are to me. Because had I not had you, I mean, I wouldn't be here doing this. And so understand. I want to understand this young lady. And so she's dressing goth and she's, dyeing her hair black. I could have made it about that, and we would not have gotten any further than go change your clothes.
I'm not
you can't
doing
dye
it.
your hair, right? Where else would we have gone? Nowhere. We would have stayed right there fighting, and we probably would not have a relationship today.
Probably not.
Instead, in my heart and in my mind, quietly in myself, I'm saying, show me, talk to me. We talk, our bodies are communication devices, okay? We're constantly talking. We're sharing. Siffany shares by the color of her clothing and her piercings and her cool nails.
I like my claws.
Yep, and I'm sharing in my own quiet, soft, subtle way.
Gentle, beautiful.
But we're constantly sharing. How much listening are we doing? I learned to listen and understand outside of words. What was Siffany's mood when she came home? Who's she talking to? And if I'm yelling at her about her clothing, she's not going to tell me. But if, I'm accepting of her clothing and I'm accepting of her piercings and I'm accepting of who and what she is, and I say, Siffany, how was your day? I'm going to stand a much better chance of her sharing that with me. I'm not outwardly asking, hey, what's going on in your mind? Hey, what are you feeling? I'm just letting her share with me her own experiences. And from that, I can glean whether she's okay or not. And most of the time, she was okay. And if she wasn't, because we, got past the clothing and past the style, if she wasn't okay, and that has taken a long time, I think, for us to kind of get to a place of being able to deeply share like that.
I think we both had to grow a little bit before we could do that.
A lot. I had to grow a lot.
Okay, yeah, a lot.
I had to grow a lot.
I mean, I was a kid, so did
I. Yeah.
And I know it might not seem fully relevant, but with the shooting that happened at Club Q, none of that would have happened if there would have been acceptance. I feel like a lot of these shootings, if not all of them, would not have happened if we could just learn to accept.
Yes.
You don't have to like to accept, okay?
Yeah.
I don't have to like the fact that the den doesn't have actual heating, okay? So the room that, my pretty art room, my creative room, this is my safe creative space. Space. This is my safe space. And so, I don't necessarily like the fact that I don't have a heater in here. But I can accept the fact that I can just throw a space heater in and be fine, or buy firewood and be fine. So I can accept it without liking it. And if more of us could learn how to do that, that right there. How many lives could we save, guys?
Yeah. I know one thing that I mentioned yesterday as we were talking, there's a lot of, of course, what are you feeling about the gunman? But one thing that I shared with Siffany, my understanding is what we reject in our, and why understanding of self and acceptance of self, in my eyes, is your number one job as a human being. Understand yourself and accept yourself. And, we were kind of going through all these scenarios of, maybe why the gunman did what he did. And I shared, when we reject pieces and parts of ourselves, or we can't handle what's happening inside, we're going to do something negative outside. There's going to be an outward expression of that.
You see it a lot when it comes to art, especially, and that's part of why I am so close to her, because this is my number one fan, and she always will be. And not a lot of people do that. And so what a lot of people see when they get involved in acting, music, art in general, okay, is the families will almost despise them for it when they're starting out, and up until they're making good money, and then they accept them again. And it's a very common thing, but the reason being, they are jealous because they wanted some kind of that, and they gave that dream up. And so, how dare you get to achieve it? I didn't get to achieve it. And it's a subconscious thought. It's not even like it's in the forefront of their mind. They don't even realize that that is what's going on. But they're like, oh, you're not going to succeed at night. You know how many few people actually make it? We all know. Everyone's heard it in some way, shape, or form, right? But at the end of the day, I got so much support in my art that there's been a couple times that I wanted to give up, because, like, I've messed up on stage. I've totally screwed up a set. I've forgotten half a song. Like, I had a seizure on stage once. That one was a trip. That was not cool. It was caused by an anxiety medication, ironically. So that was not okay. But anyhow, like, at the end of the day, having such a big support system behind me, and having such a big cheerleader, even though it's not even her style of music, really, or art even. Like, I do gothic abstract art quite a bit. Like, she's more flowers and butterflies, and know, and so, but having her root for me as heavy as she did, I think, is the reason why I'm still pursuing today. I truly believe that I would have just said, screw it, I'm done, and thrown in the rag and walked away from it had she been otherwise. And I think that that's also something that the world needs right now. Like, too few people are okay with rooting for each other.
Yes, and
that's not to say it doesn't happen, though. We do have cheerleaders in our lives.
Oh, absolutely. Another part, or what we are as human beings, is creation. We're constantly creating. If you realize that your whole life is an artistic creation, right? And I would be in awe.
Yeah.
Just in awe. I love to watch you create, because you know what? Oh my God, you're in it. You're in the now. You're not thinking about creating. You're creating. You're putting what's here and here, and you're putting it out here. And if we understood that we're doing that in all aspects throughout our day, what would happen?
Yes.
What would happen?
You look at architecture, look at, setting up your home. Even.
Gardening. Oh, yes.
Look at this wall behind us. This right here is a creation in itself.
Yep. And interestingly, so
Literally, it's a floating wall.
My best friend calls me a hearth witch. I think you've called me a green witch.
Yep.
But creating,
I go more with druid, but yeah.
Yeah. I feel a little tree. I'm very close to trees. They just carry a lot of meaning and symbolism to me. But what was I saying? Oh,
sorry.
Oh, my way of creating and my art. I love my home. It is a place of calm. It is a place of very different than Siffany.
It is.
And
it
someday
is.
maybe we'll be doing this in my living room. I don't know, but it's a place of serenity. So I like to bring in all the elements. I know we'll be talking about elements. That's very important to.
She doesn't like a lot of clutter, but I have to have all the things.
Yeah.
I'm not a pack rat. There's a very big difference. I'm not a pack rat. I'm not a hoarder, but I do like my things.
And I like simplicity, and yes,
I like intricate.
Yeah, very different. And our art, if we want to call it, specifically, using our hands and what are we creating. I am a lover of blankets. So I love to knit. I love to crochet. For years, I made weighted blankets.
And not to interrupt, but to go, we were talking about energy, and I was saying how magic and music and that, I had somebody with an astrophysicist break this down for me. I had a full-blown 3-hour conversation with an astrophysicist about energy. And she was like, it basically is magic. Like when people talk about magic and when they talk about spirits and hauntings, they're talking about energy. She says, what happens? You take an empty cup. Guess what? There is still stuff in there. You just can't see it. So when you're pouring the water, what happens is that energy is leaving because you're adding a different kind of energy. So that energy has to go somewhere, right? So where does it go? And so I can't explain it near as well as she did. Forgive me for that, because holy cow, it was absolutely mind-blowing. But at the end of the day, the energy and the love that she put into her blankets, all the way, I have 2 siblings, okay, and we had one specific designated sick blanket, and it was one that she made.
Yeah, one of the quilts.
Yes,
because I quilt.
And I have that still here. It's still our sick blanket, okay? Yeah. It's still the sick blanket my whole life.
Yeah.
I give it to Tristan when he's sick now.
Oh, sweet. And when my grandson, Tristan, when he comes to visit and stays at our house, he has his own quilt too. I mean, we all use it, but that's his. That is his. Yep. It will be handed down to him. But yes, so.
And it was like, if we used our regular blankets, it was like we would be sick longer. Or maybe it was just in our heads. I don't know. Who cares? It worked, right? For us. So that's. But we felt the love she put into it. And you can feel that in any art. You can feel it in a picture, a drawing. Absolutely. Somebody that built a house.
Yeah.
Someone that made a rug. Mm-hmm. A lamp.
A dinner.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm the cook, so I don't know how I forgot that one. And I do put a lot of love into that food.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and kind of wrapping kind of the tragedy up and maybe summarizing a little bit about what we're talking about here. Understand yourself, because you cannot understand others until you're, it's reciprocal.
Yeah.
Okay?
Like you can't love someone else until you love yourself. Same
thing. But you learn to love yourself by learning someone else.
Yep.
Okay, or loving someone else. So I can understand myself by trying to understand you.
Mm-hmm. You
can understand me by me sharing and helping. So it's all reciprocal. Okay, it's not one or the other, and that's the duality that we live in, the opposites that we live in. That's how you learn to coincide.
And another thing that I want to leave you guys with, and this is probably going to be the hardest thing for a lot of you, but forgiveness. And I know, yeah, I say that, and you're like, you want me to forgive it? Excuse me? With what he did? No, I get it. I get it. Yeah. But hear me out. When you hold a grudge, you are holding a toxin inside of you. And the more you keep that toxin in, guess what? That toxin grows and it spreads and it becomes a big, beastly baddie. And then all of a sudden you go crazy and you're acting like a butthole to everybody and no one knows what's happening to you, all because you have a grudge that for 10 years that you just never let go of, right? And then you go do something stupid. So now, hear me out when I say this. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is key. I'm not saying forgive and forget. Don't forget, we don't want this to happen again. We need to remember the victims. We need to remember the people that stepped in to take that weapon, because it was civilians that intervened before the police were able to arrive, and those civilians saved lives that day. And I think they're supposed to be being
acknowledged.
Acknowledged by the state and stuff for it, which is amazing and well deserved. But at the end of the day, if we can't forgive them for what they did, we are creating another toxin. And who's to say that they might have gone in and did it because they were a scorned lover and they couldn't forgive. So why would we want to create a toxin within ourselves to make another different kind of scenario?
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing about forgiveness, I wanted to be a criminologist, okay? A forensic scientist and a criminologist. I really did. Only reason I didn't pursue it is that physically I can't be on the police force. My body is not okay. I'm not dying, but my body's not okay. So I let that dream go. But when I was doing the research, when I was pursuing, and I still do a lot of research for my writing, my novels and stuff, and what I noticed is a lot of people forget to look at what happened to the person that inflicted the damage. And I'm not saying, oh, poor guy, take pity. What I'm saying is we are all born innocent. We are all born brand new little babies, innocent. We don't even know what wrong is, okay? But when somebody goes through so many negative things in life and their brain gets obscured to a certain point, that is when you start seeing these drastic results, these drastic reactions. And now, so when I tell you to forgive, I'm not telling you to forgive and let go. I'm not telling you to open the door and be like, hi, come have dinner. I'm saying forgive for yourself. Forgive for the people that you love that were affected. Forgive with the knowledge that the shooter himself was also a victim in some way, shape, or form prior to this, and that is most likely what created this. And just acknowledge that he was at one point an innocent human being too, and we don't know what kind of crap he went through, like, you know, growing up. We don't know any of that. And I mean, if you look at the serial killers like Ed Gein and stuff, like they had sadistic childhoods, okay, a lot of them. How can you hold that against somebody when they don't even know any different? Like, if what they know is causing harm, if that is all they know, they don't know love, how can you expect them to show love when they were never taught, when they were never shown? And so I'm not saying that it's okay, because it's not by any means okay what they did at all. And my heart goes out to everybody that is affected right now. Like, my deepest condolences. And I truly, truly hope that you're able to find solace and comfort somewhere. I truly do. And I know this is our first video, but I'm trying to set up a benefit show right now, actually, to go towards the families and to go towards the club, because we don't want to lose one of our only safe places. We don't. And at this point, if we can keep it open, I feel like it would be in their honor, because this was their home. Anyone that has walked into that place can say this is home. All right? Like, nobody judges you. You can walk in holding your other half's hand. They can be same-sex, trans. It don't matter. Ain't nobody gonna look at it. No one's gonna care. No one's gonna care. Okay? It's not like going into Walmart holding someone's hand and random people be like, ugh. Because that happens. Okay? So our safe place was taken. If we can keep our safe place, if we can rebuild our safe place, I feel like it would be in their honor. everyone's speaking out right now, and everyone doing what they're doing, it is in their honor, you know? It's for us too, but it's in their honor. You know, had that not happened, how many of us wouldn't be speaking up like we are right now? And that's part of what grace means when she says to find the beauty. It's not that it's not ugly. It's yin and yang. There's still ugly. Don't get me wrong. Like, that is horrendous. But look at how many people are coming together in love and in support. And look at how many people are giving to try to help the victims and to try to aid in this scenario. And it's a beautiful thing to see the communities come together so strongly and so firmly, and to say no more. And to be a part of it is huge. But we don't want to be the part that is pushing any kind of negative or any kind of, we want to be the part that aids in the healing. We want to be the part that helps you understand and perhaps eases your mind a little bit, if nothing else.
Yeah. And Siffany blows my mind sometimes because I often talk about forgiveness.
True story.
That's been a huge, it's how I'm able to be who I am today. It is healing. Healing happens through forgiveness. But and I'm gonna go back and
it's not easy.
No, and I understand. And if you're not, you're not ready to go there, don't go there. If you need to feel your feelings towards,
by all means, feel it.
Feel it. You have to, because otherwise you're pushing it down. And if you push it down, it's gonna explode.
Turns into that toxin.
Which, in my mind, what was the gunman? What beliefs did he have about himself that became so toxic that they then came out in murderous form? What happened? What part of himself did he not accept? What could he not accept about himself? What was he taught in the world? Through his parents, through his friends, whatever. We get it all over the place.
Yeah.
What did he reject? And here I'm called Grace. That's not actually my name. But
she's Mama.
Yeah. But I've known since I was about 4 years old, when I was in the midst of my own abuse, that I understood we do it because we're broken.
Yes.
How did we break?
And that's exactly it. What happened to this poor soul to be broken so far?
To take advantage,
to be willing to break others.
Yes. To take advantage of a 4-year-old.
It's a domino effect.
To take out lives. Yes, it's a domino effect. So do I, essentially, do I want to be a part of the problem, or do I want to be a part of the solution? And in my mind, and I think one of the big things that happens, or that we're seeing in this world, is we could look like pansies, and we can look like, people are just going to walk all over us, oh my God, are they pacifists? What's needed are still boundaries. So
yes.
So forgiveness, I can forgive my stepfather 51 years ago, but I don't need to allow him in my life.
Yes.
I can still say, no, this is my safe haven. He's not in my life anymore. But we all have, people in our lives that aren't good for us. And I can still extend grace and know that I don't want that relationship. And I can accept that about myself. I had a very hard time accepting that, because I felt like, being a Christian, that's a sin, that's wrong, and forgiveness means, you're going to keep doing what you're going to keep putting up with it. It was really, really hard for me to learn boundaries.
And a lot of people have that same idea of forgiveness. And
yeah,
I've noticed a long time ago, you know what? I feel so much better forgiving, but I definitely don't have to open the door for you
but
again.
we don't have to. Yes,
That's not a problem. You're not forgiving them for them. Okay, you're forgiving them for you. And then how far you decide to go with a relationship with that person afterwards is entirely up to you. But this concept of forgiveness goes to any aspect in life. But in a time like this, it's even more so valid because we don't want to see you guys wind up toxic because you are so enraged. And believe me, I am furious. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, Club Q helped me be able to accept who I am. And it helped me to learn to love who I am and that it doesn't matter. And so seeing a place that was such a home destroyed, I'm upset. But I'm also reminding myself that you can't even really place blame because at the end of the day, the person that screwed him up was also screwed up. And then who screwed that person up? And who screwed that person? You can't place blame, but you also have to let go because it is not good. And like, right now I'm crying. It's okay to release the emotion. It is totally okay to feel it, but don't dwell on it.
Yes. Or, I grew up in a home that, anger was a sin, that needed confessed. And so the moment I felt myself getting angry, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's wrong. So stuff, down I go, down it goes, down it goes, down it goes, down it goes. Now my understanding is anger is a perfectly acceptable feeling, emotion. We all have it. You can't, stuffing it isn't the answer. Working with it in a constructive, non-harmful way is what we should be working on. Okay?
Boxing bags, exercise.
Yes, exercise, a cold shower, a walk, write.
Make a fire.
Yes,
a legal, safe one.
Get into something. You have to do something. And I'm sure that physicist that you talked about would concur. You have to do something with that energy.
Yes.
Okay? For me, I stuffed it down. And a big piece of what we'll be talking about as time goes on is healing. So the anger I shoved down, came out in my body in disease. So we'll talk about that later. But I feel great. I don't have symptoms anymore. And
it truly has been miraculous. Like I'm amazed. I am.
Yeah, sometimes I amaze myself.
Good.
But yeah. So you releasing that anger in a healthy way. Be angry. I'm angry. I'm pissed. Colorado Springs is my home.
I'm born and raised here.
Holly's friends are they all call me mom. So I don't know how many kids I have, but I could tell you most of them.
She's probably at about 25.
and
only 3 that came from her though.
Most of them, many of them, the Club Q was their home, and I understood that, and I knew that, and we're all hurting.
Well, she feels for us.
So, I do. Those are my kids trying to express themselves in wondrous ways. In wondrous ways, in a safe place, and they're not harming. So, feel your feelings, but do it appropriately, please.
And our hour's almost up, so we're going to take about 20 minutes of silence in remembrance of what happened, and I'm going to grab a candle and light that too while we do this. So let's all have a moment of silence if you guys could join us.
might want to say that again because I'm pretty sure you said 20 minutes.
Oh, whoops,
I
20
think you meant
seconds, not 20
seconds.
minutes. I'm dyslexic.
It's going to go just a tiny bit over the hour, but let's all have a moment of silence together. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We'll have some more episodes coming soon. I'm going to have another channel for the witchy stuff if you guys are interested in that, just so you're aware. But that's not going to be the primary focus here. So, yeah. Hope to see you back. Please feel free to like, share, comment. We definitely appreciate it. And great to have you.
Yep.
Can't wait to see you again.
Yep. And care for yourself. Spend time in quiet. Get to know yourself. Okay? Who am I? How do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? And how best to love.
And keep your loved ones close.
We did it. If me and Siffany can do it, I am absolutely, utterly convinced anyone can.